Hi, you are watching SightsIn and this is Umesh Shivas. Please to subscribe the channel for the HR news, for HR updates and conversation with the top-notch CHROs, thought leaders and business heads. Today we will try to understand the performance development in 2024, and I'm really excited to welcome world's top high-performance coach, HR thought leader, best-selling author, Marc Effron. Marc is also the president of Talent Strategy Group. Welcome, Marc.
Hi, Ramesh. Great to see you again and looking forward to having a great conversation on performance.
Mark, I know that you have the global clientele, and India is also the part of your client list. First, I would like to know that what are the common challenges generally the organizations are facing when it comes to the performance development for the employees?
Sure. Well, first, what makes them common challenges? What makes them common challenges is that CEOs want more performance. There's not a CEO out there who doesn't want to elevate performance, and so they look to HR to say, "How can you help us get that done?" And I think the challenge has been that we in HR have sometimes made that process a bit more complicated than it needs to be. So the business comes and says, help us with performance, and we come back to them with a heavy process, or here's a bunch of technology, instead of really helping them to understand what's the simplest, easiest way to elevate performance.
Yeah, absolutely. The CEOs and business heads are looking for the high performance of their employees. Absolutely. And that depends on so many things. Sometimes also the employer and employee relationship, that is also one of the factor. Recently, we have done a survey on LinkedIn and we have put here the four options. And first, we put the question that what aspects do you think have the most significant impact on enhancing employee performance? So we have put here the four options. Number one, that is the compensation. Second is the goal clarity. Third is regular feedback. And fourth, that is the challenging task and growth opportunities. Surprisingly, we have received 37% vote, that is the maximum vote for the challenging task and growth opportunities. Second remained the regular feedback. And third remained the compensation. And fourth, that is the goal clarity, 18%. What is your comment on this survey, and what are the other factors that may influence the employee performance?
The good news is there is a lot of science in the field to guide us on that exact question. So, what matters most for performance and how do the factors play together? The science is very, very clear. Setting big goals is the number one thing that any of us can do to help to elevate performance. Goals are incredibly powerful. They help to focus us. So we all have 100 things to do. Goals help us to understand here are the 3 or 4 things you really need to do. Goals elevate our performance. The psychology is very clear that as human beings, we respond to challenge with effort. So Ramesh, if you say, Mark, jump a foot in the air, I'm going to try and jump a foot. If you say jump 2 feet, I'm going to try and jump 2 feet. You say 3 feet, I'm going to keep trying until either I'm too exhausted to get the job done, or I don't see the reward equaling the recognition. And so goals are incredibly powerful. They also sustain our effort. People will try harder to do something when they have a goal around that. So goals are incredibly powerful. There is an amazing amount of science around goal setting. And when we work with our clients, we always start there. People like to talk about ratings and reviews and rankings, and we say, no, 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 no. You can't do anything at the end of the year to increase performance. The horse is out of the barn. It's gone around the track. That race is over. So stop worrying about the end of the year and worry about the beginning of the year and setting great goals.
I think that beautifully, Mark, you have described about the importance of goal setting in performance development. If you look at the Marc Effron's performance development model, so I think the first, that is the goal setting, and that is the primary in your model. And Mark, what is the second element? What is the second key component of your performance development model?
Second is frequent and transparent coaching. So there are 2 parts to that: frequent and transparent. Most leaders think they are transparent, and most leaders think they are frequent. But if you ask their employees, you hear a very different story. So frequent doesn't mean that Ramesh comes to me and says, hey, good job, pats me on the back. Frequent is we have a real conversation. Mark, you said you would do A and B and C this year. Let's talk about how you are doing against A and B and C. So the frequency that you and I both know this is a feedback conversation, not me just getting a little piece of feedback from you, but then the transparency as well. And we have a methodology I'll talk about in a few minutes around how to coach for transparency. But most people want honest guidance. Either things are going well or you could do something better going forward. A lot of times we aren't as honest as we should be with people. We don't want to hurt people's feelings, or maybe we're working with somebody who's not exactly like us, different gender, different race, and so that makes us feel uncomfortable. All of those things cause us to dial down on transparency. And there's a lot of research that says when we coach people who are not like us, we tend to give less helpful feedback and less specific feedback. So instead of saying, if you're my boss, Ramesh, instead of you saying, Mark, you talk way too much in meetings, no one else can get a word in, you have good things to say, but try to measure, how much you're speaking. If that was the normal conversation you would have, if you felt uncomfortable with me, it might sound something like, Mark, make sure other people have a chance to talk in meetings too.
Right, absolutely. So what I understood, Mark, your model talks about the two key components. Number one, that is the goal setting, and number two, that is coaching. When it comes to the goal setting, so it has also a lot of challenges. That may be the clarity, that may be sometimes the motivation, a lot of challenges may be there. According to you, what are the challenges when you are setting the goal?
Very simple in terms of how you describe it, but as we all know, most companies don't do it well. I find a few things get in the way of goal setting. First, in most organizations, I'm still very surprised by this. In most organizations, there is not a logical and disciplined cascade of goals down the levels. This sounds so obvious. What's the big boss doing? What's his or her team doing? What's his or her? This seems like it's management 101, but in too many organizations, that doesn't happen. Either at the top of the house, it's financial goals. So you might know it's EBITDA, but how does somebody 8 levels below there figure out what am I doing for EBITDA? That I put things on a production line. So sometimes the goals are not easily translatable from level to level, but sometimes there's just not clarity at the top about what they're doing or the interest in having the cascade. So then goals get broken apart when you go to level to level. I don't know what my boss is doing above me. So I just think, well, we'll work on A, B, and C, and that may or may not be helpful. So that lack of a cascade gets in the way very frequently. But also the ensuring that there are quality goals gets in the way. So in most organizations, there's no check and balance to make sure that good goals have been set. And when we see that being done well at our clients, they're doing a few things. First, HR is paying attention to goals. Now, my HR business partner friends don't like this suggestion, but it's a good one, which is they should read through 20% of the goals for their team, at least 1 or 2 levels down for the team they support, and act as a goal coach. They should go back and say, Ramesh, on these 2 goals, I love them. On this 3rd goal, the metric isn't clear. Maybe we can work together to figure out a good metric. HR should be goal setting experts, but we should also be business experts so we can elevate our game. Meaning I might come back to you and say, Ramesh, you said your sales goal is 110% of last year, but the market is growing at 20%. So that doesn't sound like a very aggressive goal compared to the market. Let's figure out a better standard. So we should be goal setting experts. We in HR should help the business to set better quality goals. But also, and this is a very easy trick that we recommend every company do, manager of manager level reviews. Meaning if Shruti works for me, I work for you. You would look at Shruti's goals and everybody else on her level. And that can be done in most companies very easily. You got to print out from the system, you go through it, good goal, I don't know what that is, bad goal, and you hand it back to me and say, Mark, here are my thoughts. For a leader in most companies, that will take maybe 15 minutes because he or she knows exactly what they want to see happening below them. And so as they read a list of things that people are doing, they instantly know, great, that's helpful, that's not helpful. So that we call it a manager of manager goal check-in, fast, easy, incredibly powerful. And what those two things do, the HR audit and the manager of manager review, what they do beyond the practical is they let people know someone is paying attention to this. So it's not just you set your goals, somebody else is going to make sure those goals matter. Because we know that better quality goals drive better results. So we should pay a lot of attention to making that happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for elaborating in this detail. And absolutely, the goal setting is challenging, and goal clarity is equally important. Sometimes the employees they are also having their individual goals and aligning their individual goals with the organization goals. That is also very important. How we can do it?
Well, ideally, the organizational goals are the ones that are cascading down from layer to layer. Now, in some organizations, what we find is there's a common goal across people. Now, that normally happens when you're trying to drive a particular type of change in the business. Maybe GE many years ago, when they were a successful company, they were big into Six Sigma and being a black belt. Everyone had a goal that you had to become at least a green belt in Six Sigma because they thought that was a common good in their company. So sometimes you have a common goal like that. I have clients who have engagement as a common goal. Every leader has an engagement goal. Either move your engagement scores up for the team or keep them at a very high level. So common goals like that can be helpful if you're trying to drive a specific organizational outcome.
Yeah, right, right. And after the goal setting, I think the next very important area that is the coaching, that is continuous feedback to the employees, that is the regular feedback to the employees, continuous learning. And for this, the organizations need to have a team, dedicated team, a trained team basically, which can provide the feedback in a constructive way to the employees so that they can enhance their performance. That is very important. According to you, how the organizations can prepare such a team, how they can train the team to provide the feedback to the employees?
So let's start with frequent and transparent. How do we make that happen? We have a methodology that we love and is being used by literally millions of people around the globe, as we know the companies that have implemented it. Its goal is to make coaching unbelievably easy because a lot of managers are a little bit afraid of coaching. They're not sure if they're saying things right, et cetera. So our goal is how do you radically simplify coaching so that every manager is able to do it? We have a process called 2+2 coaching. I advise all of your listeners to try it. It is as simple as this. Once a quarter, you sit down with each of your direct reports. It can be as little as a 15-minute conversation. In that conversation, you are going to share two things. First thing you're going to share is 2 observations against goals. Not 2 observations against every goal. What are the 2 most important things you can say against goals? That might sound like, Shruti, on that big marketing project, I'm hearing great feedback from around the world. You're being very inclusive, listening to ideas from everywhere. Keep that going. Shruti, on the marketing strategy, that's about a month behind. I need to see that by the end of the week at the latest. So what are the 2 most important things I can say against the goals that have been set? And then 2, what Marshall Goldsmith would call feed forward suggestions. So what are 2 things you can do more of or less of or differently to be an even better performer? That might sound like, Shruti, you're new to our organization. This is a relationship-based place. The more relationships you have, the better. I would like you to have a cup of coffee or a lunch with 1 new person every week this year. By the end of the year, you would have met about 50 new people and start to build a great network. Shruti, you're not a project management expert, but you have a lot of projects on your plate. We have a great class for that at our company. And I think if you take that class, you'll be an even better leader of those projects. 15 minutes, once a quarter, 2 observations against goals, 2 feed forward suggestions. What can you do more of or less of differently? Now, that is not brilliant goal setting. That is not the most advanced level of goal setting. That is basic goal setting. But I guarantee your listeners, if everyone in their company did that, you have a performance lift in there and you have an engagement lift in there, guaranteed. So that's intended to say, what's a minimum standard? If you want to do more than that, fantastic, do more than that. But if everyone did that, I promise you your organization will be better off because of it.
So let me put it situation here. Suppose you are sharing the feedback of your underperformer, and sometimes they don't accept that they're underperforming. You are coming up with a constructive feedback. You are coming up with a point. These are the improvement areas, and these are solutions. By this way, you can improve the performance. You are right. Your feedback is right. You are transparent as well, but they don't accept sometimes. They start feeling disengaged. They start feeling demotivated. This is a long way. I have to learn this. I have to blah blah. This will take a lot of time. How to deal with this situation, Mark?
I think the starting point is for the manager's mindset to be one that I really want this person to succeed. I really want this person to win. Not you did that wrong. Don't do that again. It has to be, if you're my boss, Ramesh, and we're having that conversation, it has to start with, Mark, I want you to be an incredibly successful employee here at our organization. And I have some observations that I think are getting in the way of that happening. I have some ideas for how we can help make you even more successful here. Now, you could use that lead in instead of, Mark, I've noticed a few things that are going wrong in your department I want to talk to you about. My mindset will be fundamentally different with that first conversation versus the second. Now, you might still say the same things after that, but the mindset that you're sharing, the attitude that you're sharing is, I really want you to win. I want you to be successful. I have some observations about how you can be more successful. So I think step one is that. And then it comes back to just the good goal setting. Is there a clear standard? Now, your production line has been producing 200 boxes of product a day. The standard is 250. Let's figure out how to get you to 250. Let's work together to understand what's getting in the way. But a really positive attitude around that, but with a clear standard. So if the goal is 250 boxes a day off that production line, you don't say, well, for you, it's 240, it'll be okay. It's still the same standard, but my perception is that you're going to do everything possible to help me get there.
Yeah, absolutely. That is very nice advice, I would say. And Mark, sometimes also the employees get emotional during the conversation, during the feedback conversation, and that is also a tricky situation. How to handle this? What is your advice on this?
My advice to managers on that is always, you cannot control other people's emotions. You can run a very good meeting, a meeting that should make them feel that you care about them, that you want them to succeed. People are going to react in different ways. If I thought I was doing an incredible job and you came to me and had that conversation, I might be disappointed or I might be angry. Again, that means that you coming into that conversation has to be about, I want to make you successful. I know you can be a very successful employee here. So if it feels like you're beating on me, then it's going to be a lot easier to have an emotional reaction. If it feels like here's someone who genuinely cares about my success, hopefully that dials down the emotions. But also, the person receiving that message has to own their own emotions. It's not my job to own their reaction to that conversation. It's my job to run that conversation in a way that I think is fair and helpful and has a positive attitude to it. So that is I think you very helpfully point out one of the reasons managers shy away from the tough conversations is, oh, they're going to react badly. I don't want to have this. Do you care about performance? If you care about performance and if you care about the individual, you'll want to have that conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. So these are the tough conversations, and sometimes the managers shy away. Another situation is okay, if the performance is good, if the performance is as per the expectations, then it's time for the rewards. It's time for the providing them to more growth opportunities. If you want to retain them, because without the growth opportunities and without the rewards, you cannot retain that person now. What is your take on this? What is your advice on reward and growth opportunities?
Sure. So I know a lot of organizations in India are growing quickly, but there are also a lot of employees who want to move up. I think there are a few thoughts. One, are we very accurate about who our highest potential employees are? So in a lot of organizations, we confuse high performance with high potential. And the first essential step is not just saying, oh, Ramesh is a great performer, I'm sure he can move up. Those are two completely separate conversations. Great performer is one thing. Able to move up is something else. So are we having a clear discussion to make sure that we aren't mistaking great performance for potential to do something else? Once we're clear on that, then the conversation is really understanding, one, does that individual want to move up? Not everybody wants to go to a higher level because they might need to work harder or sacrifice more or travel more or do things they don't want to do. Question one is, Ramesh, we are thinking about opportunities for you. Are you interested in opportunities? If so, are there some that you are more interested in than others? So first step before I even worry about developing you is to understand, is that one of your goals? Once we have that conversation, then it's about looking inside the organization and saying, are there upward opportunities or are there experiences that I can give Ramesh that will grow him that might not be a job, but are going to add to his CV in a very nice way, give him kind of a meaningful accomplishment that he can talk about? Because not everyone can move up. The pyramid is steep in a lot of companies. And so I can't promote everyone, but for everyone who is a high potential leader, I should be thinking about what's going to grow them the most. What experience do they need that will be the next best learning opportunity for them? We use something called experience maps to do that. Your listeners can go to my website and search for experience maps and get a great article on them. Experience maps simply say, what are the experiences in any function that are the ones we care most about? So if I'm speaking with a finance leader, for example, we look at the categories of finance. It's tax, accounting, financial planning and analysis, comptroller. And underneath those, we'll simply list, well, here are the experiences that we think will be most valuable in you becoming really good at this. What will help you to become a really good accounting leader? Experiences 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. That then allows us to say we have a point of view about which experiences matter. And for you, the best next experience is this.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% I agree with you. That the definition of the career goals that may vary from individual to individual. That may also depend on the age, position, and what is their aspirations. So that may differ individual to individual. Absolutely. Another important aspect is the ROI. Organization is working on a lot of the things. They are taking a lot of initiative to enhance the employee performance, maybe a lot of learning and development courses. Ultimately, the ROI after this initiative, after the 6 month, what is the ROI? What we are getting? So how we can measure the ROI of these programs?
Two thoughts. First is my somewhat cynical but realistic thought, which is it is very, very difficult in HR to measure business outcomes. Just flat out, it's really difficult to do. I'm a quantitative guy. I love quantitative measures, but can I measure the quantitative outcome of a great leadership development program? No, it's impossible. There are too many variables. There's too much variability even within the people in the leadership program. Here's my best metric. Is the CEO satisfied with the quality and depth of the leaders in their organization? In other words, does the CEO say, not only do we have enough talent to meet the needs of the organization, they're skilled or they're capable of the things we need them to be good at. So, and this, I learned this in my last corporate role when we were trying to come up with fancy metrics. And I was meeting with the CHRO and I was telling her, well, we have this metric. And she said, Mark, all I care about is, do we have enough general managers to expand around the globe? And that just radically simplified in my mind. They don't care about us proving the metrics. The CFO might, but the CEO simply cares about, do I have enough talent to execute my strategy? And so I would start with that question before I worry about any smaller metrics down the organization. Go to the CEO and say, do you have enough, or do you think we have enough depth of talent and the right quality of talent to execute your strategy? And they'll give you either a yes answer or a no answer. It's probably going to be a no answer. And then we can have a conversation about what else do they want to see. So I think it's easy to overcomplicate metrics. I do think it's helpful to keep track of some things, like I like ready now successors. I think that's a really good metric. For our critical roles, do we have one person who is ready now to step into that role? and making sure that that's a true ready now, not I'm simply putting a name in a box. So that's not a true measure of outcomes, but it does say if we're developing people correctly, or even if we're buying people correctly, we have someone who's ready at this point. So it suggests that the processes are working. The only other measure I think we can get to, if we're coaching someone or giving someone, or coaching is probably the best area, a measure at the beginning of the assignment and a measure at the end of the assignment. And this is just, again, stealing from my friend Marshall Goldsmith. Let's measure how people think about you at the beginning of the assignment. Let's measure how people think about you at the end of the assignment. And has there been a positive change in your behaviors? That's about the only thing we're going to end up being able to measure in this field.
Yeah, absolutely. So the positive change in the people and some impact, it takes a little time. Another important thing is that in last couple of years, we have seen the boom of generative AI, and there are also a lot of some emerging technologies. Since 2022, we have seen the ChatGPT, Gemini, and all the companies I think working right now on this. They're training the people on generative AI. How do you see it's going to impact the employee performance?
I think it's going to have a massive impact on performance. It might be a few years still, but I think the entire goal setting conversation that you and I just had can be greatly enhanced through AI. My vision is, can we input the strategy and say, I have a company of 1,000 people, I have these departments, I have these people in each department. Given the strategy, write goals for everyone down to the bottom of the organization. Now, that doesn't mean those goals will be perfect, because we know AI sometimes spits out things that aren't ideal, but that's a really good starting point to say, here you go, Romesh, here are the 3 goals the system supports. You tell me if these are right or if you want to do something else. We just took 2 months out of the process by doing that. And we probably enhanced the quality of those goals by a bit as well. So I think at the starting point is saying, can AI help us to write better quality goals? And then once we have enough inputs, I think it can also help with coaching. This might be a little trickier, but there's no reason that you can't get a text from the system saying, the marketing strategy that was in your goals and due May 20th, we haven't seen an email from you to your boss that contains a document named marketing strategy. Therefore, we think it is late. If it is late, here are some suggestions for how you can finish that marketing strategy. So I think we can get to that level of, and a little scary, an all-knowing system at work that understands what's going on and can really help us to get tasks done. I think the more challenging part, if you're in HR and your job is to synthesize or analyze information, those parts of your job are likely going away very, very quickly. And so you should be thinking about, where do I add the most value, or what else do I want to do in HR? Because I'm saving lots of time synthesizing interviews I do with clients. If we're doing 360 feedback, I have a lot of data. I can load all that up into ChatGPT and get back not a perfect summary, but a pretty good summary that saves me a lot of time. And I would have normally given that to an associate to have them write up. So if your job in HR is to analyze information or to synthesize information, one, I would start using ChatGPT or something similar to do that for you, but also recognize your boss probably knows it can do that as well. And so think about, how else can I add value?
Mark, last time we have also discussed about the 8 steps to high performance about your book. I would like to remind us these 8 steps. And do you think these 8 steps to the high performance are still effective in the era of generative AI?
Sure. Well, I think one interesting point is, do as many people want to be high performers as before the pandemic? We face this question every day, where you hear people say, I'm not that interested in being a high performer anymore. That's actually good news, because that means there's a smaller pond we have to compete in. If there are fewer people who want to be high performers, then if you want to be a high performer, there's a few less people you have to compete with. When we talk about high performance, and I'll go through these quickly, and let's see if I can remember all of them early in the morning here. The number one we already talked about, which is still the most powerful: set big goals. The second, behave to perform. What does that mean? It means understand your derailers, understand the behaviors that you're showing that get in the way of your success. Third, accelerate through experiences. We've talked about that a bit as well today. Make sure you understand what's the next best experience for you. The fourth is connect. And connect is based on the very powerful science that says people with bigger, stronger networks do better at work, especially better relationships with your boss. My one line there is treat your boss like you would any other friend, obviously consistent with the culture that you're working in, but build a positive, warm relationship with your boss that will pay off more than you think. It's not about kissing up. It's about good, warm relationship. Now I have to have five. Ensure your fit, making sure that you understand, and maybe to the Chat GPT conversation we just had, make sure you understand where the organization is going and what skills you need to build to meet the organization where it is. Step 6, which is my favorite, which is fake it. What does fake it mean? It means that we might not show up as the ideal person every single day. There might be certain behaviors that just aren't natural to us, but that are going to be beneficial if we display them. We might need to fake a behavior or two in order to be more successful. And people might often say, "Oh, Mark, you mean, stretch your behaviors or test?" No, I mean, put on an actor's mask, and say, "Look, today I'm going to play Shah Rukh Khan, and I'm going to be an aggressive." Pretend you're an actor and say, "I don't like that role, but I'm going to be convincing in that role." 7 is about sleep. We all know sleep matters. When I wrote the book, it was still kind of coming out. Sleep is the foundation for high performance. If you're not managing your sleep properly, none of the other things I just mentioned work. 2 things to pay attention to: quality and quantity. Quality matters more than quantity. And what the scientists say is you essentially have to live like a monk. Sleep in a dark room, sleep in a quiet room, sleep in a cold room, no device reading, no pets. My advice would be try and turn the dial down on one of those. So maybe the room's a little darker, a little colder. There's only 1 dog on the bed instead of 2 dogs on the bed. And the final one is avoid distractions. And what that means is don't react to every performance suggestion that pops up in your feed. Now, if somebody says, "Oh, there's a great new way to be a high performer that no one's ever heard of," they're probably lying, because the science is very clear about the ways that do work. And so if somebody says, "Oh, I found a secret new way," I would have a skeptical set of eyes when you read that. So that's the 8 steps.
Thank you so much, Mark, for reminding us the 8 steps to high performance, sharing your performance development model, and other insights. Thank you so much, Mark.
Thank you, Ramesh. I enjoyed our conversation today.